Hi there, it's Donna from Taffy Crafting, and I've got a lovely monochromatic, is that the right word? Anyway, a monochrome card just using two colours. For this one, I've used Merry Merlot and Whisper White. I've got an embossing an embossed piece of card behind this. I don't use Merry Merlot all that often, and I think this is a great colour for somebody who perhaps doesn't like big bold colours but doesn't want anything too subtle. So I've gone for something, quite neutral really. And I've used the Forever Fern stamp set for the leaves, and I have used Peaceful Moments for the happy birthday sentiment, but you could put anything you like in there. The Forever Fern has coordinating dies. They are called the Forever Flourishing dies. And I'm also using, for my label on here, I'm using the Tasteful Label dies. So I'm using a selection of different things. The embossing folder is Pretty Flowers embossing folder. So a real selection of things that, and you could use lots and lots of different things, different flowers or different leaves, different colours, different sentiment. It's just an idea for a card. So I'm going to choose a different colourway for the card so I can show you how I've put this together. And I'm using one of our new in colours, and I'm going to use Polished Pink. So let me show you how I put that together. There will be a blog post that goes with this project. There is a link in the description bar, and it's got all of the details of the products, the measurements, everything. So you can just sit back and watch, or what I sometimes like to do when I watch YouTubers is to actually craft along with them. So I will say the measurements as clearly as I can. They will all be in inches, they won't be in centimetres, I'm afraid. So if you want to craft in centimetres, you're going to have to pause, convert. So all of the inches, just multiply by 2.5, and that gives you the centimetres. Right. Anyway, this is a piece of cardstock that is 11.5 inches by 4 1/8. This is basic white thick cardstock. Always makes a difference to use thick cardstock for your cards. It makes them stand up, especially if you're putting multiple layers on them. If you're putting multiple layers, if you're using ordinary weight, it will just start to give way. How do I know that? Because that's what my cards have done when I've used ordinary weight basic white cardstock. So score down the middle on the long side, score down the middle at 5 3/4, fold and give it a good burnish. We're going to really be layering up this card, so I want to make sure that that is well burnished. So there's our card base. Now on top of that, I'm going to have a piece of polished pink cardstock. This measures 4 inches by 5 5/8. And I'm just going to stick that onto my card using liquid glue for that. You can use any glue you like. You could use tear and tape, some of the what I call the dispenser adhesives. And in my blog, I'll leave links for those as well. So I'll leave links to all of the different glues, and you can choose which one you like. So when I've stuck that down, just make sure that there is an even border all the way around, and using liquid glue means that I've got time just to move that about a bit if I want to. So there's the first layer. Then I have another piece of basic white cardstock. This measures 3 3/4 by 5 3/8. I chose those measurements because I wanted a slightly bigger border around. I want to see that pink, otherwise it will look too white. Now what I'm going to do is run this piece of card through this embossing folder. So what I'm going to do is just put that in there. Now my embossing machine is over here, and it's a big one, and it's difficult to get that on camera. So what I'm going to do is just pause, run this through, and then show you what that looks like. So here's that. I love this big reveal when you've put something through an embossing folder and then you take it out. It's difficult perhaps to see on camera, but I'm hoping you can see just how gorgeous that looks. So I'm going to stick that onto there. Like that. So I've got a nice border all the way around. This project is perfect if you are a relative beginner or if you want to try some new techniques. So if you've never done any dry embossing before using embossing folders, and I'm quite new to embossing folders, I don't use them all that often, or I didn't used to. And then I realised that they just give just an extra texture to your projects, just an extra bit of interest. You know, when you pick up this card, not only have you got these on here which stand up a little bit, there's some dimension to this, and then you've got this, and it just makes it look less flat. Cards can look quite flat. This gives it that little bit of texture, a little bit of interest. So that's the main base of my card. So I've got some things to do now to prepare for the rest of the project, the rest of this card. Actually, let's do this bit first. I'm going to deal with the label first. So my Tasteful label dies. Let me show you what else, all the labels that we have in here. This is a really good set of dies to have in your stash because, I mean, I used to use, I still do, use punches quite a lot. But then with these, obviously, of course, you need to have a die cutting machine for this, but for these you get a lot more labels. Look at all of those different sizes. These are really pretty when you die cut them out. For a small sentiment, you have that, and that's stitched. These are stitched as well. So really good sizes and different shapes. I'll leave a link to that in my blog. I've used these so much, they are well used. Whereas you think if a punch can cost, you know, on its own for one label, can cost anything, you know, between, it's normally about £17-ish. You're getting a lot more labels for your set of dies. Anyway, what I want to do, I've taken this one. So this has got a nice edge around it. Let me just show you how that comes out. You see you've got that edge along there. That just makes that look really nice. So what I'm going to do is die cut one in polished pink, and I'm going to die cut another in basic white. So I'm just going to go over to the die cutting machine and do that now. So back from that, and I've die cut those two out like that. So put that to one side. Now what I want to do is create a label like I have on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment onto the white label, and I'm going to be using polished pink ink for that, just so that it all coordinates. So I'm using the Happy Birthday sentiment from the Peaceful Moments. Let me just show you some of the sentiments that are on there. This really had, I don't know why I didn't buy this when it first came out, because it's got some beautiful sentiments on there. That's the nicest, in my opinion, sympathy sentiment that we have. Really lovely Happy Birthday, love that font. We've got a thank you. This is a good one for a wedding card or an engagement card. Maybe this one as well. Maybe that's nice for a congratulations card. Thinking of you with all my hearts, that's something nice to send for any occasion really, or just to tell somebody you're thinking about them. We've got a lovely congratulations and another gratitude sentiment there. You shouldn't have, but I'm glad you did. And life is better with a friend like you. And always remember. So some really nice sentiments in there. So I've inked up my stamp. Let's hope we get this straight. It's always difficult to do when you're on camera to get it straight. I'm just going to go for it and hope that that is straight. Yes, that's a lovely bright pink. I always thought that polished pink was very similar to Magenta Madness, but it's not. It's, I can't say that it's a brighter pink. It's a lighter pink, I think, in my opinion. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to put that to one side to dry. Now with this, to create that layered look on that we had on here, so that we've got that layer around it, I think if you just put that sentiment on there without the layer, it would be lost. So what I've done with this, take the pink die cut or whatever colour you're using and just slice it in half. You don't need to measure. All you're doing is slicing it in half like that. And then take your main label and I'm going to run some glue along the top. If you are a regular watcher of me, you would have seen me do this quite a few times. And you can do it, I think, with most label dies. The sun is really coming out here and it's making the light really strange. Sorry, it's very cloudy today, so the sun will go back in a moment. Now with this beveled edge here, make sure that you have that showing on the outside. So you need to be sticking it down like that. Just do one at a time. Stick that down, then turn it around. And I've actually got that straight first time. So I'm not going to do anything with that other than just press that down and then do the same on the other side. If you don't do them one at a time, you run the risk that the glue will set, and if it's crooked, then that's it forever and you're doing it again. So again, make sure the beveled edge will be showing on the outside. Get it stuck, turn it round. That one isn't quite straight. And while the glue is wet, just move it until you're happy with it. And what I'll do is I will just decorate that with some embellishments. So that is going to sit, but I'm not going to stick it down yet. That's going to sit there like that. It's really like a candy pink. I thought that Magenta Madness was a candy pink. This is more of a candy pink. Right, next, another piece of white cardstock. And we're going to take, you can use any of these. You can use any leaf or flower, anything you like. But I want to use this as I did in the other card. And I know it's a leaf, and I know I'm going to stamp it in pink, but who says you can't stamp a leaf in pink? That's what I'm going to do anyway. But you could, if you wanted to, you stamp it in green, entirely up to you. So I've got my stamp. You can tell this is a well-used stamp. It's really stained with ink. So I'm just going to load up my stamp with the ink. And I'm going to stamp this twice because I want two images die cut. So it stamps quite dark, that pink. Now here's my die. So what I'm going to do, I need that ink to dry off a little bit. And I'm just going to lay my die over that, run it through the die cutter machine. I'll do that twice. Run it through the die cutter machine. And then I'll be back. So I've die cut those out like that. That could have probably been better die cuts. And my advice would always be just take your time in making sure that your dies are lined up. These are quite intricate dies and it really pays off if you just take the time. I did it quite quickly because I was thinking that I had the camera pausing and I didn't then want to lose the entire video, so rushed it a little bit. So I want to just line everything up first before I stick these on. And what I'm going to do is put this one on first so that I can cover up my dodgy die cutting. So that's going to sit there. I'm going to put that one there. So that's going to determine where I want to put that. I want these leaves to overlap the label. So just have a look at where you're putting those. And then once you're happy with that, I'm just going to leave those there for a second, because what I'm going to do is just put some dimensionals on the back of this. I'll use my big long tweezers for that. Take the backing off, and then we're ready to stick this onto the card, and we're almost done. Now the other way in which you could put some decoration on this card, we could add some ribbon maybe, because there's a little bit of a gap at the bottom. You might want to put some ribbon on there. I might do that. So I'm just going to put this roughly where I think that's going to be, and then take those away, and then pop that down like that. So then these, when we put them back on, when we stick them on, they are going to overlap. So let's put my dodgy one on first. Oh, sorry, that's the table making the camera wobble. And the glue's gummed up in the bottle. Let's try that again. This is the same glue that I used literally a few minutes ago. Right, I'm going to go and sort that out and I'll be back. I had a word with the glue. So put a bit there, just in the middle, because we want that to overlap. I don't want it to stick. And then just a tiny bit at the stalk, stem, whatever you want to call it. So that's going to stick down there, and then just stick on the top there. I'm just going to hold that down just for a few seconds while that sticks. There we are, that's done that. And then we'll do the same with this one. So just a little bit in the middle there, just enough to make it stick, a tiny bit on the stem, and try and cover up that die cutting and press that down just for a couple of seconds. And then I'm going to put some dimensionals. Now I've got, just having a look here in the stash next to me. In the new catalogue we have these 2021-23 in colour jewels, and they're super pretty, really pretty. Let me see if I can put that against the white so you can see. So we've got the pale, the soft succulent, these are the fresh freesia, the evening evergreen, pale papaya, and the polished pink. So I just want a couple of those just to stick there like that. And I'm thinking about ribbon, but it might just be a step too far. So I've got all of the in colour ribbons. And I'm just thinking, could I put a little bow somewhere? But it might just be a bit too much. So I'm not going to do that. But that's something that you might want to do if you like to put ribbon on your projects. But there we have it. There's our finished card. So only one colour with white used, but you could mix that up and put some green on there. You could use any colour you like on this. Really mix it up. Got two quite different cards, and it would just depend on the recipient. The recipient isn't a lover of bright pinks and bright yellows and things like that. Then you can go for a more, for a deeper colour like Merry Merlot. Or we have the subtle range, so you've got the more subtle colours like the subtle oranges and yellows and blues and lilacs. Or you've got the brights, where you've got the bright blues and the bright greens and the bright oranges. Lots and lots of different ways in which you could do that. But thank you for joining me. As I said, all of the details are in the blog. The post is in the description bar. And don't hesitate to come and leave me a message and let me know what you think and let me know if you're going to have a go. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.